Memorizing a sermon can be a challenge, a huge challenge, especially when you have to do a new one every week. Hey, I work with pastors and have been speaking for over 2 decades, and I love what I do. But whenever I'm working on a brand new speech and new content, I have that fear of, am I gonna blank on stage? I still do. I know I'll figure it out, but memorizing a speech is not what you should do. What we teach people to do, me and my coaches, is to internalize the speech, meaning get the speech into your body. It's using a technique called anchoring that's been in NLP for years, but I found it incredibly helpful when I was working on my world championship speech. Because even though it's what I do for a living, to do new content and be able to know exactly where to use it on the stage can always be a challenge. So I get it. This weekend, I was asked to give a sermon at my church, which is way outside of my comfort zone. So I was going through the process. I was like, oh, this would be good to teach people because it was helpful to me. So I get it. If you have a fear, but don't memorize, internalize. So let me show you what I did. So I'm just standing here in my living room and I kind of took my speech and broke it down into little pieces. So follow me here. What I've done is I've taken my speech and I kind of blocked out the different sections. So in the sermon that I did, I talked about some different examples from the Bible. So what I did is, if you look down, is I took each section and I put a piece of paper with the reminder of the example I was using and then the first line to get me into what I was going to say. So king, God needs a king and to forge his nation on earth. So almost like the first line that I was going to say. And then when I'm going over my presentation, instead of just standing there and saying it or sitting down, even worse, I would go and stand here and I would say the line and the paragraph about that example. Then next I would move here. Here's another example. And so the cheat line at the beginning, another example, gets me started and then, oh, okay. So what it does is kind of prompts me. And then the next example. And then the next example, God needs a marketing team. And then finally, God needs one more person. So what I did is I segmented it. And then after I gave those examples, I turned back to my story and I used this side of the stage. So I brought the audience to 1992 and I set that up. And then at one point I said, well, I remember back when I was 8 years old and I went back in time here just a few steps. Now, obviously this is my living room, so it's a smaller, shrunk down version of the stage. But what it does is I'm anchoring each different place. And one of the techniques I used working on my championship speech is I had my dad stand in front of me and just point and do it out of order. So then when you're standing there in that place on stage, it's almost like you have that memory, that anchoring memory, so it makes it easier and gives you a little more confidence too. So even though I might not have got it perfect, it worked out pretty well because I would do it over and over again. Now here was another challenge. I had to give a speech in California the day before, so I wanted to work on it, but obviously I couldn't do it this way, which I preferred. So what I did is I took my smartphone and I had my sermon all written out word for word, and I turned on voice memo and I literally recorded the whole sermon in voice memo. And then I listened to it over and over again as I drove to California. So obviously be safe when you're driving and check with the local laws what you can do and can't do. So the way I did it, I had the 3-hour drive or 5-hour drive to California from Vegas.
Ever wish you were the boss?
So I echoed at first. Ever wish you were the boss?
All the decisions.
You get to make all the decisions.
Let's say you were the boss.
Let's say you were the boss.
You were on a mission.
And you were on a mission.
You come up with this brilliant idea
You come up with this brilliant idea for a business.
It's so good that you get on Shark Tank.
It's so good that you get on Shark Tank.
If you're not familiar.
So the more I went through it, the more familiar I got. And then I tried to say it at exactly the same time or ahead of what I was saying on the recording.
With the show, it's where entrepreneurs
bring their business idea to a group of multimillionaires, the sharks,
the sharks
in order to get them to partner with them
with you and
get their financial backing. So if you see what I did, I was trying to, at first, to get familiar with it, I just echoed it and just said it over and over again. And then eventually, as I could, I tried to say it at the same time or ahead of time. So it gave me a great use of time in a 5-hour drive. But you could even do that like inside or even when you're walking it out in your living room. But obviously, if you can get on the stage that you're actually going to speak on, even better. Or in the meeting room you're going to speak, even better, because then you get familiar with the atmosphere. So I hope that helps. So here's how it turned out.
So God chose Moses, the least likely person, to be his spokesperson. All right, another example. God needs a king to forge his nation here on earth.
So if anyone tells you that it's simple, easy, quick way, just do this and it's memorized, it's not true. It's a little bit of effort. But I hope these techniques have showed you different ways maybe you've never heard of or thought of that could help you internalize your speech. Remember, don't memorize, internalize. If you want to know more about how to create an unforgettable presentation, check out stagetimeuniversity.com.